Hi everyone, welcome to Experimental Design and Statistics. In this course, you learn concepts of statistics in the context of also learning a statistical package called Stata. And the idea behind this combination is that most people learn best by doing, not just by listening or watching. So this is a chance to give you an opportunity to practice what you're learning in terms of concepts by using a statistical package. So in Stata, the first thing you want to do is to bring the data into Stata, right? And there are many ways to do that. So you can directly enter the data in Stata by just opening up the data editor, which I'll show you in just a minute. And that is probably the least useful way of getting data into Stata, just because Stata is not really meant for data entry, although it does have that capacity. The other way that you can bring data into Stata is by either importing data, and you can import data in many different formats, from Excel spreadsheets, which lots of people use for data entry, to flat text files that people generate from other programs. So there's very versatile in the way that you can import data. And then, of course, once the data are in Stata format, you can just open a Stata file. So as I mentioned, entering data directly into Stata is probably not the easiest way to create a Stata file. So now we're going to walk through the process of bringing data into Stata. So I've opened up Stata, and one of the things I wanted to show you was that Stata has the option of creating different views by changing the number of windows that are open. There's four main windows that you really want to have on your screen. One is called the review window, which shows you all of the different commands that you've run. And right now in my screen, the review window is in the top left. One is the variables window that shows you the list of variables in your data set. Another important window is the results window, which tells me all of the commands that I've run, as well as the results of the analyses that I've run. In the bottom of this screen is the command window, where you actually type the different commands that you want to run. And one of the windows that's not showing right now, but I could show, is the properties window that generally tells me the properties of my data file. Now that window I don't find all that useful, and so I often don't show it, and I'll just exit out here. The other thing that is a default in the newer versions of Stata is to have the variables window on the right side of the screen. I can move that variables window around wherever I want by grabbing the top menu bar and just dragging it. In this screen here, in each window, you get this option of putting so I'm holding down my mouse key and I'm dragging this, and I have the option of putting that window in different places. If I put it at the top of my results window, there my variables window goes to the top. But maybe that's not a very handy place to put it, so I can drag it, and now I might want to drag it over to the right side of the screen. And this may be the version of Stata that you're used to looking at, with the review window off to your left and the variables window off to your right, the results window in the center, and the command window in the middle. So the nice thing is however you like to arrange your view, you can do that, and when you reopen Stata, it will stay in that view. So now we want to import some data, but one of the very first things that we always want to do when we open Stata is open a log file. So I'm going to go File, Log, Begin, and then I'm going to save that file in a place where I know I can remember. On my computer, I have a folder for this class, Nutrition 380K, and another folder called Data. So I'm going to save this log file as a Stata practice log file. Now, the default form of this log file is a Stata file called .smcl. That's the Stata log default, but that only is able to be used when you have Stata. If I want to save that log file and to do some manipulation of it in something like a Word document, a Word software, or a Notepad or something like that, I also have the option here to save this as a log file, a .log file. And that creates a file that's actually in text format and can be opened with Word or a notepad or anything that reads text. So I'm going to just for now save this as a .log. But either one of those file formats is perfectly fine for this class. If you send me .smcl files, of course I can read them because I have a copy of Stata. But if you want to save them as text files, .log files, that allows you to take that, to open up that file and to maybe do some manipulation of it, to cut and paste pieces of it out or to search through it. And that's a handy feature when you know how to do .log. So I've opened up a log file, and that's going to capture all of the work that I do. A log file does not hold data. It just sits passively in the background and records everything that you're doing. Once it's opened, it stays open and records everything you do in Stata as long as you're working in this particular version of Stata. Now, one thing I will tell you is that if you navigate over to another screen or another place where you have some Stata data, and you click on a Stata data file, I'm just going to click on this one here, correlation example. When I double click on the file, it actually opened another instance of Stata. So I actually have Stata open in two different windows. Here's one of the windows, and here's the other window that we were originally working in. That can get confusing when you see that you've got more than one version of Stata open, and you might not notice that you have more than one version of Stata open. It's a great feature in Stata because it lets you work independently on two different data sets, but it's a confusing feature of Stata because once you've opened that new instance, then all of your commands and results get recorded over here, or they don't get recorded at all if I don't open a new log file that captures the work being done over in this instance of Stata. So my advice is to always work within one instance of Stata when you can, and to open files not by double clicking them, but by always going up here to either importing them or opening them through the file command window to the option. So if I'm going to import a data set, in the case of the Tiger data, it's in Excel spreadsheet format. So I can go File, Import, Excel Spreadsheet. I can navigate over to where the data are, and I'm going to open this Tiger data initial 3 file, which is a little bit smaller than the initial 1 file. And one of the important things is to note that I need to, because it's coming from a spreadsheet, as soon as I see the data in this little window, which I can make a little bit bigger if I want to, I see that these variable names are sitting here as part of the data set. And I don't want them to be sitting there. I want them to be up here as variable names. So I can just click that little button that says import the first row as variable names. And sure enough, there the names go into the first row. And now Stata knows that those are the names of my variables. That's a really important feature to be able to do. And once I've done that, I say OK, and I can import this data. Now, because this is a fairly big file with about 7,000 records in it, it takes a little bit of time to import. But there you see, here's my command, my import command over here in the review window, and my variables show up in my variables window, and the command that I just ran is showing up here in the results window. Right now, the data aren't in any kind of format except they're being held temporary in the temporary memory of Stata. So in order to save that file as a data file, I'm going to go up here to File, Save As, and then I'm going to give that file a name. So today I'm going to call that, I'm just going to call it Tiger Initial 3 to make it distinct from other files that I have here. And the extension here is .dta. .dta is a Stata data file. Once I've saved that data in stata.dta, then I can open that data file up by just simply going File, Open, and then browsing to the file that I'm looking for. So two different file types, .log or .smcl, the log files, are just passive recordings of what you're doing while you're working in the program. .dta is the data file itself saved in Stata format. One of the first things I want to do when I read a data file into is to take a look at it. So I can do that a couple of different ways. I can click up here on these icons. One is for the data editor and one is for the data browser. Or I can just type the words edit. The editor allows me to open the data and to actually manipulate it. Or I can type the word browse, and that lets me look at the data without worrying that it might get manipulated. As you look at the data, data that are in black letters or black numbers are numeric data, and data that are in red are alphanumeric data. And any data that are in blue, which there aren't any in this data set yet, are coded data that have numbers associated with them, categories that have been given labels. So we're just kind of looking through the data set to see what we have, and then I'm going to close this data editor window. Looks pretty good. Not much else to do. I've got my data ready, and now I'm going to work on the data.